thank you for today. We thank you for opportunity once again to be in your presence, to learn music that when you want to listen for the present for the moment you have now, knowledge and understanding to to know the music that our teacher wants to teach us now. And we pray that we won't forget to give us retentive memory to remember. And when we're writing the exams, we will be able to write it with wisdom in Jesus' name. Bless our teachers, bless everyone once again. In Jesus' name we have prayed.
Amen. Okay, so you're welcome to our first official class. I hope every one of us are doing well. Hmm? I hope we're all well.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Good. All right, so today we are going to cover, we're going to go to our next topic in our syllabus, and that is the staff. Well, I plan to do the staff today, and the staff and the clefs, and then we'll see how far we can go with that. All right, so let's begin. Does anyone here know what a staff is? Can you define a staff? Anyone?
The
Okay, can you see my screen?
yes,
What part of the screen can you see? Can you see the
it's
whiteboard or you see my desktop?
the white.
The whiteboard.
Okay, just wanted to confirm so that we're all seeing the same thing. All right, so a staff. Newton, do you know what a staff is?
Here we go.
Okay, all right, so, okay, first of all, we need to, before we define a staff, we need to understand what we are going to go into. We are going to now go into the how you can see a sheet of music, read a sheet of music, and know what a sheet of music is saying. Just like, you know, we have different languages, right? And we can, when we are speaking, you can speak, you can listen, but there's also a need to be able to write whatever you're communicating, right? So, because without writing, then then there's no way to like communicate or send message to somebody in some other place without talking to them. Okay, so writing is also an important part of communication. So the same thing, writing language. Music is also another language on its own. You can think of it as a language, and in order for different people to understand that language or to communicate through that language, we have to be able to write it down. Okay, and that's what we are going to look at today. So we are going to look at written music. So that's what we are going to talk about going forward. How music is written so that, you know, people who understand the language of music can read music and then produce or play whatever music that's written down. Okay, so first of all, we are going to start with the staff. Now, music is written on what we call a staff. So that's what music is written on. Any piece of music you see is always written on a staff. Now, that's the singular. Who can tell me what's the plural? What's the plural of a staff?
Stave.
Stave. Correct. Stave or staves. In some, either way, I think it's correct. Okay, so staff, singular, staves, plural. Okay, so a staff is basically composed or comprised of 5 lines and 4 spaces. So let's see if I can copy and paste. So that's 1 line, 2 lines, 3rd line. No. 2 line. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 lines, 4 spaces, and they are don't mind my drawing here. They're supposed to be equally spaced, generally equally spaced. I'm sure you've seen these music sheets before, so this should not be strange. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is the staff. Now on the staff, you've got other notations, but generally when we talk about the staff, we're talking about 5 lines, 4 spaces. So the 5 lines are the 5 you see there, and then the spaces are generally the spaces in between those lines. So there are 4 lines, 5 lines, and then there are 4 spaces. Okay. Now, in writing music, on top of this, you start putting other notations on top. This is where we write other notations in music. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example here. There's a software I use called MuseScore. Let me share the screen. Yeah. Okay. All right. So this is the staff, and I've put some other notations here. Don't worry about the software. We'll talk about the software later. We're now just interested in the staff. Okay. So like I've mentioned before, you've got the 5 lines. That's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, and we have the 4 spaces. Okay. Now, generally, the number of the lines, we generally give the lines numbers and the spaces numbers, and the numbers always start from the bottom. So if I can go back to my whiteboard, is my whiteboard still there? Yes. Okay. So we number these lines and the spaces from the bottom. So from here, this is line 1. Okay, let's just go for like this then. So this is line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, line 5. Okay, so we generally label them from the bottom. Okay. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's see. My whiteboard seems to be acting up. Start sharing text. I still can't do the text. All right. Anyway, so the lines are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The spaces likewise are space 1, space 2, space 3, space 4. 4 spaces. So we always number the lines from the bottom. Okay. So now back to the mainstay, the software I showed before. This one, the staff. Okay. Now on the staff, you see I've drawn some other things here which we're going to label just to give you a general idea of what they are called in music. So this, I can get my annotations again. So this is called a clef symbol. So this one here, this is called a clef symbol. We'll discuss more about that later. Okay, this is called the key signature. This symbol here is called the key signature. This one is called the time signature. This one here. Okay. Now this is a note on a line. So this one is a note on a line. Okay. This one, you guessed it, is a note on a space. Because it's on a space, you can see there. All right. I will discuss this in detail. I'm just labeling it so that you can see the general picture. This line is called a double. Okay, before we get that, this is called a bar line. I'll show you what a bar line is now. So these are called bar lines. This one, and there's another one here. That one. These are called bar lines. Okay. Now this is called double bar. Okay. And then to wrap up the lines, bar lines, this is called a heavy double bar line. And then there's another type of line we call ledger lines. Ledger lines. Ledger lines, singular. This. Okay. Let me just see if I missed anything. I think that's it. All right, so are we all on the same page? Can you see what I've done so far?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go over these one by one. So remember, all these notations have basically been put on top of our staff. And the staff is how many lines? 5 lines and 4 spaces. And you can see it runs from left of the page all the way through to the right of the page. All the lines, they run from left to right, okay? Now on top of these, then we now put other notations to tell us, give us more information about this music, this piece of music, okay? So remember in music, remember one of the 3 properties of music is that music has what? Pitch. Okay. And then music also has what? Duration attached to it. Okay. So we all need to define all the duration of this piece of music. We also need to define the pitch of this piece of music by putting symbols on this staff. And now, one of the main first things you'll always see in a piece of music is what we call the clef symbol. Okay, the clef symbol, we'll come to it later, will basically tell you what lines and space, what are the letters of the lines and space on this staff. Okay, you know, in music we have 7 letters to denote the 7 notes of music. We have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We don't have H. Okay? So these are the 7 musical notes. Music notes. Okay, they're denoted by those letters. So what the clef tells you is what do the lines, what notes do those lines and spaces symbolize? That's what the clef tells you, just in summary. Okay? Are we all together?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then the key signature here tells you, as the name implies, what key you're playing on. Okay? It tells you what key this song or this piece of music is on. We'll come to that later. When we talk about the key, what is the key? The key just tells you what is the key signature just tells you what is your root note in the piece of music, but we'll discuss that later. So this is what we call the clef. This is the key signature. And this is the time signature. Time signature gives you an idea of the beat, how the song goes in terms of the beat, or the duration of the notes that you would see in the piece of music, how long they're supposed to last, and things like that. Okay. Now, this is a note. This is one type of note in music. We'll discuss other types of notes later, but I just wanted to put it here just to explain to you that you could put a note on a line. You could see that this note lies on this line, this third line. Why is it the third line, Newton? Why did I say that this note lies on the third line? Why is it the third line? How do I come about the third line? Newton?
Sorry, sir, I wasn't here the whole time. I was going to get a book to write down things.
Oh, okay. All right, no problem. Okay. Okay, so who can help Newton explain? Archippus, you were here when I was explaining. Why did I say that this note is on the third line? How do I come about the third line? Archippus?
I think it's a clef symbol. No, it tells the letter of the line.
Sorry, come again. I can't hear you.
It tells the letter of the line.
Okay, no, we're talking about this note here. Just this note. You see where my mouse is? Okay. All right, so this note, I said this note is lying on the third line. It's the third line because we're counting from the bottom. We count lines from the bottom and we count our spaces from the bottom. So if this is line 1, okay, I think I can do it here better so that I can show you. So this is line 1. But it's quite big. Anyway, so if this is line 1, this here is line 1. Therefore, that is line 2, that is line 3, that is line 4, that is line 5. So this note lies on the third line. Are we together? Okay. Now, so I was just using this note to just explain to you that you could put a note. This is a musical note. You can put a note on a line, or you could also put a note on a space. So you see this note here is on a space. Which space is it? Is it the first space, third space, second space? Darasimi, this note here, is it, what space is it on?
Space 4.
It's on the fourth space, 100%. You're correct. Okay? So that's a note on a space. All right? Okay, so is that clear so far? Do we have any questions? If you have any questions, just feel free to raise your hand in the app so that we can go over this and we can explain it, the parts you're not clear with. Okay. So the next thing we look at is what we call bar lines. So you can see these vertical lines that divide the staff here. These single vertical lines, they're called the bar lines. They basically divide our piece of music into equal parts. into equal sections. Okay, short equal sections. So you can see this part here. Let me use a different color here, and I'll draw. So you can see this is one section. Oh, no, that's wrong too. Okay, so this bar line divides this into this section, and then the bar line also creates another short section here, and then this is another section, and this is another section. Okay, so these lines basically divide our music staff or the staff into short sections, and these sections are what we call these sections measures. It's called a measure. Okay. Do we see that clearly? This is a measure. Okay. This is also another measure. Okay. So that is what the bar lines do. They basically divide your staff into short sections. Okay. And sometimes you'll see on some sheets musics, you see on music scores, they actually write numbers to tell you the number of the measure at the start of the bar of the staff. So for example, this is measure 1, this is measure 2, this is measure 3, measure 4. And then if we add the second staff at the bottom, you'll have a measure 5, 6, and so on. But the bar lines basically divide your staff into short sections called measures. Now, you could hear, sometimes you hear measures, other times you hear bars. So you could sometimes hear it's a bar or it's a measure. So it's all the same thing, a measure or a bar. So you could say this is one measure or one bar. Likewise, one measure or one bar. So whichever name you prefer, it's all the same. Is that clear? Are we together? I can't hear my people. All right. Okay. Then now you notice that these bar lines, there's also another type of bar line called the double bar line, and it's quite straightforward why it's called the double bar line, because we've got two bars. Okay. So the double bar line is also basically tells you, it basically divides your music, large sections of music. So where the single bar lines just divide your whole sheet of music into short sections, the double bar lines will divide your music into larger sections. So let's say there's a very large piece of music you're playing, and then maybe there's, for example, let's say there's a stanza and a chorus, for example. Your double bar line will basically divide your stanza section and from your chorus section. That's what the double bar line does. It basically divides your music into sections. So generally you will not see many double bar lines, depending on the size of the music you're playing. What you'll only see these double bar lines that, you know, to indicate ends of sections of your music. Okay. And then keeping on with the bar lines, there's the third type of bar line we have, called the heavy double bar line. So the heavy double bar line generally signifies the end of a piece of your music. When you come to the end of your music, you generally see these heavy double bar lines to signify the end of your piece, your musical piece. Okay. All right. Then, so we've looked at the lines, the staff, spaces. Now there's other lines which you see here, which are called ledger lines. Now, ledger lines, you can see that they are shorter horizontal lines which are added at the top or the bottom of the staff. What do? They basically extend your staff. So let's say you're playing, you're writing some piece of music, and then you've reached the top here, and you want to add some other notes, further at the top. You just do that by drawing these short horizontal lines called ledger lines. Okay, so they basically extend your staff. You can extend your staff upwards to the top, or you could extend your staff to the bottom. So the ledger lines here are the same ledger lines here. It's just used to extend, to place notes above your 5 lines and your 4 spaces. Is that clear? Are we still together?
Yeah.
All right. Any questions so far? Okay, so I'm assuming no questions. All right. Now, there are other symbols which you would see in music, which I wouldn't add here, just for now. There's also symbols like rests. There's symbols like tempo. So sometimes you'll see, if you want to know how fast this music should be, there's some, you would have to, you put a tempo symbol, which, but we'll consider that later. That's more advanced stuff for now. So this is just the basic introduction to the staff and the notations you would see on a staff. You've got your clef symbol, which indicates what the lines and the spaces, what are the letters of the lines and spaces. We'll come to that in the next section now. The key signature tells you what key the music is. The time signature will tell you what's the beat of your music, of this piece of music. And obviously your bar lines basically divide your piece of music into short sections, and so on and so forth. Okay, so when we read a music sheet like this, when we read the staff, we generally read from left to right. Okay. No, that's not. Didn't want to use that. Left. So we read music from left to right. I guess that's intuitive. Okay. Now, sometimes this is what we call a staff, right? This is a staff. But sometimes you would find that in some pieces of music, you would see multiple staffs. Let me give you an example of what I mean. So let me create another groups of staves. I'm sure we've seen something like this before. Okay, I'm going to clear this annotation since clear all drawings. Okay. Okay. Now, in music, sheet music, you would generally see something that looks like this. You'd see multiple staffs. So this is one staff. This is one staff. And then this one is another staff. Okay. Now, generally, when you see a staff or group of staffs grouped together like this with a curly brace, you can see this curly brace here. You can see this curly brace here. When it's grouped like this, what it generally means is that if you're going to play or sing whatever is written on this piece of music, you want to play whatever is played on both staffs at the same time when you're moving forward. Or another way is if you have a group of singers, okay? And let's say a group of singers are singing the top staff here. Another group of singers will be singing the bottom staff here. When you see these two staffs grouped together with the curly brace, they both should sing together at the same time. All singers should sing together from left to right at the same time. Okay? So this is what we call, this is when we generally group staves together. If you're playing a keyboard, for example, and you see a staff like this, then you generally want to be playing the top staff with your right hand and the bottom staff with your left hand at the same time as you go from left to right. So that's what this grouping indicates. All right. Sometimes you would also see staffs grouped like this. Let me show you another one. Groups of staves too. Sometimes you see groupings like this. Okay, you see this, when you see this line here, this line, this like of angle bracket here, this is basically indicating a grouping of staffs. And what it tells you is that you generally want to be playing or singing everything on all four staffs here at the same time. Understand? So normally, okay, let me also, you could have multiple of these. So let's clear that one. If you have multiple of these, let's say, create a new one. Don't worry about what I'm doing here. Eh? You don't need to understand what I'm doing. I just want to use this to explain what I'm doing. Let's say 24. No, that's not what I'm meant to do. Aha. Okay. So this is what I wanted to explain to you. So if you look at this, see, this is a group of staffs, and there's another group of staffs. All right. You could see that the curly brace is only, notice that this curly brace here is only grouping these two together. And then we have the second curly brace, which is grouping these two. All right. So when you see a piece of music like this, the grouped parts, the grouped staves are meant to be played together. So it means that all this, the red, this red brace here is meant to be played together. All the notes in this staff and this staff are meant to be played together from left to right. Then when you're done, when you, let's say you come to this point in your playing, when you come to this point here, then you go to the next group of staffs here, and then you play from here, and you play again these two staffs at the same time. Okay, so the groupings here, basically what I'm saying is the brace here tells you the staffs that are meant to be played at the same time. Okay, so when you're done playing this one, then you go to the next one, and you play this, and you keep on going down, further down. If there's more, keep on playing until you finish your piece of music. Okay, so back to this one. Whenever you see this, this is also another type of brace or bracket. This type of bracket also indicates that all these are supposed to be played or sung at the same time. Are we together?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So that's grouping, that's that section on grouping of staves. Sometimes you would see something like this. Let me share my screen. You can see that. So sometimes you'd see something that looks like this. You'd see a group of staves here together, means that these two staves are meant to be played at the same time. But then you would also see that it's connected by just a single line to another single stave at the top here. Okay, generally in music like this, it's this line, this part of the staff is for the vocalist. So the person who is singing with her voice would sing this part. And then these groups, these staffs here that are grouped together would generally be played by an instrument, typically a piano. This is what the piano or the person playing the keyboard will be playing. Okay. And then sometimes if you have an orchestra, you would see that each instrument has its own part they play. So like the flutes, the oboes, clarinets, bassoons, horns, trumpets, timpanis. So each one would have their own part they play. But whenever they are grouped together, it indicates that they ought to be playing at the same time as they go forward. Or the grouping also groups similar instruments. So like the flutes, the oboes, clarinets, bassoons, they are sort of similar instruments. So they are grouped together and they are played together. Horns as well, horns and trumpets, similar types of instruments. So they're grouped together and they're played together. Timpani is an instrument on its own, played on its own. Violins, violin 1, violin 2, grouped together, played together. Violas, violoncellos, and contrabasses, also play together. But you can see these are stringed instruments, the violins, violas, and the cellos, and the double basses. All these are stringed instruments, and that's why they have this big, long bracket here to signify the string orchestra, the string parts. And then the violins have their individual staffs on which they play. So this is just to explain the staffs and what you would expect when you see different groupings of staffs. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Any questions? All right, no questions. Okay, so now let's go to the next part of our study today. And we're going to go to clefs. If you remember from this, the introduction here, I mentioned that, let me see if let me test our knowledge of what we've learned so far. Okay, let's see. Newton. What?
Sir.
Yes, what is this? Does this symbol, what do we call this symbol? Can you see this green box, right?
Yes, the time signature.
Well done, 100%. Let's clap for him. Unmute your mics and clap for Newton.
Well done.
Great. Now, Dunsin, what do we call this?
Called a double bar line.
Well done. Clap for her. Double bar line. I didn't hear our clapping for her. Let's clap for her. Great. All right. Temperance.
Yes, sir.
What do we call these lines?
Which line?
Okay.
Oh, that's the ledger line.
Ledger lines. Correct. Clap for yourself. All right. Then Darasimi, what do we call this symbol? Just the general name, not the specific name. Just so from
Clef
what we've learned so
symbol.
far. Sorry?
Clef symbol.
The clef symbol. 100%. Clap for yourself. All right. And then finally, Archippus. What do we call this symbol?
The key signature.
Key signature. 100%. Congratulations. Yes, so I'm happy we are all following, and I'm sure we're all taking notes. Okay, so now we're going to go to the clef. Now, there are two types of clefs. Let me open my whiteboard. Where's my whiteboard? Okay, here we go. Now, there are two types of clefs. Well, two main types. There are other types, but let's start with the two main ones. There's what we call treble clef. That's number one. And then number two we've got the bass clef. Oh, yeah, some people say bass, others say bass, whichever one. Bass clef. All right. Now, the bass, the treble clef. Let's start with the treble clef. The treble clef is also known as it's also called the G clef. All right. Now the treble clef, I'm sure you've seen it already. Let me see if I can. It looks like this. It looks like a G, a type of fancy G. It starts with a blob like this and goes like that. I'm sure you've seen that. That's the treble clef. Or it's called the G clef. Now, why is it called the G clef? It's called the G clef. Remember I told you the clef, in any piece on a staff, the clef will tell you what note the lines and the spaces symbolize. You remember? And remember in music, we have how many notes? How many notes do we have in music? Newton, do you know?
7.
Good. Can you name them?
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Great. You are 100% correct. So the clef will tell you which line is an A, which line is a B, which line is a C, which line is a D, which line is an E, or which space is an F, which space is a C, and so on and so on. That is what the clef will tell you. Okay, so can you then tell me what note will the treble clef tell you? The answer is already there. I just want to see if you guys are following. What note will the treble clef tell you? Will the treble clef indicate? What note? Temperance. Can you give a guess?
G note.
G, 100%. So the treble clef tells you where your G is on the staff. And now how do we know where the G is? It's quite simple. If you look at here, if you see this point here, I'll just use a red marker so that you can see it clearly. So you see where this treble clef ends here, this line here. It ends sort of on this line. This line, wherever that treble clef ends, that is your G line. Makes sense?
Yes,
all right.
Yes.
So if that is your G line, once you know that that is G, then you could then name all the lines and the spaces on either side of the G. Am I correct? Let me draw this bigger so that we can all see it clearly. So I'll just erase this so that I'll draw it bigger. So I'll draw so that's line 1, line 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. I just want to make it big so that when I'm writing it's visible. Okay, so our treble clef, if you want to know how to, you don't necessarily need to know how to draw it. It's good to know how to draw it, but since we have software tools to help you draw stuff like this. You don't necessarily have to know, but it's a good idea if you learn how to draw. You start with, I generally start with the dot, and then I go to the top. Oh yeah, let's clear that one. Start again. It's quite difficult drawing with the key, with the mouse. Eh? Let's try again. So we start. All right, let's just work with that. Sort of lying down on its side, but that's fine. All right. So, like I said, this, because the treble clef is also called the G clef because the end, the tip at the end that you end on here ends on the G. This is called, this line here is G. Let me use reader. Yeah. This is G. Okay. So if that's G, and then remember we have the letters of the notes of music are A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, so if this is G, and remember when we are counting on the lines or space, we count from the bottom. So this is line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, line 5. So that's going forward. And then going down on the stave is going backwards. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So if that's G, that means, who can tell me what this line is? Yarasimi. What would be this line? The line above the G line.
Line 3, sir.
Sorry?
Line 3, sir.
Yes, it's line 3, but what's the note name?
B, sir.
Sorry?
So I'm not sure, but I think it's B.
B. You are correct. You are 100% correct. That's B. All right? Okay. So if this is G and that's B, so what then we left the space. What is the space? Dunsin, what is the space? What is the note name for the space? Hello? Your line is very bad. Can you speak louder so that we can hear? Or you could type your answer in the chat box. If this line is G, then the space is A. Correct. Well done. That's A. So the line here is G, the space is A, the line here is B. Newton, what's the space here? What's the note of the space here?
I suspect it's C.
You are correct, 100%. Okay. All right. If that space is C, then what is the line here? Temperance.
Where?
So what is the note name of this line, the fourth line here?
D.
D, 100%. Well done. And Archippus, what is the space here?
E.
E, correct. Okay. And then I'm sure we are following, we are seeing how it works, right? Okay, so then this is F. I'll just complete that. Now, so we've done F there. Then if we go back down, if that's G, and then we're going backwards down, who can tell me what this is down here? The space below the G.
F.
Correct. And then what's the line here? E. Correct. Yes, you guys are following. It's wonderful. I've got a very sharp, smart group of people. All right, so you see how we've been able to label the notes of each line and each space based on knowing what the clef is, right? So the treble clef is called the G clef, also called the G clef, because it indicates where the G is. And the way you know the G is by where the tip of the treble clef ends. So here, if you know this tip here, where it ends on the line, okay? Then we know that line is the G. And then once you know your G, then you could label all the other lines and spaces on the staff. Does that make sense? Now, one way, sometimes you're going to, instead of trying to memorize, sometimes it's quite difficult to, if you see it a couple of times, you will know it intuitively that this is E, this is G, this is B, this is D, this is F. But sometimes to help you, there's what we call mnemonics, or we give some easy way to be able to remember what the lines and the spaces signify, what the notes are, using some memory technique. Now for the space, for the lines, sorry, let's start with the lines. So the lines are E, that is, I want to use, okay, so this is E, that is G, that is B, that is D, that is F. So the lines are colored in red. Now the spaces, we call them in green. This is F. Oh, no, sorry. It's supposed to be. Right, good. And then F. This is A. This is C. And this is E. Okay. So one quick way to remember, I'm sure you can all see it, for the lines, one quick way to remember is you use the mnemonic if, some people say every, good. I'm sure you've heard this, boy deserves favor, or Fanta, whatever you like. And then you can see that the spaces, they just spell the word face. Can you see that? So one quick way to be able to know the lines and the space is on a treble clef, on a treble staff. Okay. Okay. One way, let me explain what I mean. So remember, we said the lines and the spaces is called a staff. This symbol here is called a treble clef. When you put a treble clef on a staff, the whole thing becomes a treble staff. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so the staff is the lines and spaces. I'll just repeat that. The lines is the staff is the lines and spaces. Now, the symbol here is a clef, and it's called the treble clef. When you put the treble clef on top of a staff, the whole thing becomes a treble staff. Okay, so the treble staff, one way to be able to identify the notes or the lines and spaces on the staff, treble staff, is every good boy deserves favor. That's for the lines. Okay, so this is lines. Every good boy deserves favor. And then the spaces, F-A-C-E. And remember, we always start from the bottom. So the first space, second space, third space, and fourth space. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good. All right. So now let's go to the next clef. The next clef is called the bass clef. Now the bass clef has another symbol. It's got its own symbol. I'm just going to erase this so that I'm sure we've taken notes on this, right? I'm just going to erase this. Oops. All right. So the bass clef is also called, does somebody know what another name for the bass clef? It's called the F clef. And from our discussion of the G clef, we understand why it's called the F clef. Can somebody tell me why it's called the F clef? What does it tell you when you look at the staff that has an F clef or a bass clef?
It tells us where the F is on the line.
100% correct. Well done. Clap for her. Yes, it tells you where the F is on the line. All right. And to draw the bass clef or the F clef, it's almost like a redraw that. Doesn't look so good. Okay. Let me use black ink. Okay. So it goes something like that. okay? And then it's got a dot there and a dot there. That's the bass clef or the F clef. And yes, you are very correct. It tells you where the F line is. And the F line, well, the bass clef generally starts from the F line with that dot. And then you see these two dots. The line in between those two dots is also called the F note. All right. So, how do we do this? Okay, let's go. Let's now label, if we know that that is the F line. Now let's do all the lines on the bass clef. Let's label them. So if this is F, okay. Let's go down. So what's this one? Newton, what will be this line? If that is F, and then this line will be
E.
Oh no, can you try again? Remember, we've skipped the space, eh? We have skipped the space, so we are now on the line. So if that is F,
Oh, then that would
yes,
be D.
correct. Okay. Then what will be this line? Temperance.
B.
This will be B, correct. Okay. Dunsin, what would this line be? G, correct. All right. And at the top here, Darasimi, what would this line be?
A.
Great. You're 100% correct. So that's the lines on the bass clef. Okay. Some people use the mnemonic. It's quite similar to the treble clef, but slight difference. Good. Boy deserves favor always. That's the lines. Good boy deserves favor always for the bass clef. Okay, now let's do the spaces. Nope, undo. Redo now. Get this to be red to match. Good. All right. Okay, so now, once we've done the lines, then it's quite easy to then do the spaces. So let's go, Darasimi. What would be the space here?
S.
Are you sure?
I'm not sure, sir.
Okay, so if this line, right, is G, and then we are going up. Remember, in a staff, we always if this is G, and we are going up, that means if you just follow, if you follow this the notes pattern here, the notes letters here. So whenever we go up, we're reading from left to right. So you could actually do this because it repeats. So this is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on and so on. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It can repeat for, as long as you have as long as you want. So if this line is G, and you're going up, what's the next space? What will be the space here?
A.
Correct. You are correct. A, that will be A. All right. Newton, what will be the space here?
C.
Correct. You are 100% correct. Temperance, what will be the space here? What will be the note there? Sorry?
E.
E. Well done. You are correct. And Archippus, what will be the space here?
G. Wait,
G.
where?
Yes, you're correct. G. So the spaces on a bass staff you can use the acronym all cows eat grass. All together.
Yes.
All right, so this is a quick way to identify what are the notes of the lines and the spaces on a bass clef. Remember, bass clef. You first have to look at the symbol. What clef are you looking at? Bass clef. So this is a bass staff. So with the bass staff, you know that the bass staff is also called the F clef, or the bass clef is also called the F clef, which tells you where the F line is. And then from there, you can know what the other lines and spaces are. A quick way to just do it is the bottom line is good, boy, deserves, favor, always, for the lines. The spaces, all cows eat grass. We just use that to just remember what the note names are. Eh? This space here is not called all, and this space is not called cows. Eh? Just remember that. We just use it for us to memorize what the note names, the musical note names of the lines and spaces are. All right, it's a memory technique. I'm sure if you want to, for those of you you've studied theoretical courses or theoretical subjects, one way to memorize, theory is to convert some of the theory into mnemonics. So some of these abbreviations so that you can easily remember what they stand for. So that's basically what we're just doing here. All right. Any questions so far? Is that clear? So if I should give you an assignment and tell you to label the names of the lines and spaces on the treble staff, you'll be able to do that, right? Anybody that is confused whatsoever, like you have no idea what is going on, just let me know. Raise your hand.
I have a question.
Yes, what's your question?
So the F symbol is a bass staff, and all the bar lines are the bass tape.
Sorry, can you repeat your question? I didn't hear you very well.
Okay, the F symbol on the bar lines is a bass staff, and all the lines are called the bass tape.
Oh, are you talking about this symbol here?
Yes,
Okay,
that's a bass staff.
so this is a bass clef.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what it's called. The symbol itself is called a clef symbol. So it's a this particular symbol is the bass clef. Okay. Now, when you put the bass clef on top of a staff, and remember what is a staff? 5 lines, 4 spaces. If you put a bass clef on top of the bass or on top of the staff, you form a bass staff. Is that clear? Do you understand? Does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
yes, sir.
All right. So let me show you an example. It's a correct, proper example of what it looks like here. So you see this? This is the treble clef. This is the bass clef. Now, this whole thing, oh, oops, resume share. Oh, sorry. Let me share that. Okay. Annotate. So this whole staff here is called a treble staff. Why? Because it's a staff that has a treble clef. Is that clear?
Yes,
And then this staff is called a bass staff because it's a staff that has the bass clef on it. Do we understand? So if you hear a group of musicians talking and they say, oh, there's something wrong with the treble staff, you have an idea of what they're talking about. Oh, they're talking about the whole staff with the treble on it, somewhere in there, there's maybe something wrong or something, and you know what they're talking about. All right. So to put things into perspective a little bit, this is important. You'll see this very useful and very common when you're singing. If you're singing, or if there's a choir, for example, when the choir is singing, you see that the females generally will be singing on the treble staff. They'll be singing from the treble staff, generally, most of the time. In fact, almost always. Females will generally be singing on the treble staff. Males generally will be singing on the bass staff. So what is that telling you? Actually, the bass staff is usually the deeper tones, the deeper pitch, so the lower pitches. You know, in music, we're throwing these terminologies around. The pitch is lower in the bass staff, but in the treble staff, the pitch is usually higher. So that's why the female voice is coming. That's when you're singing. When you're playing an instrument, generally instruments that have higher pitch play from the treble staff. Okay, and then instruments that have a lower tone, lower or deeper pitch, like the bass pitches, boom, boom, they generally play from the bass staff. So that's the distinction between and why we have those two staffs, the treble staff and the bass staff. Okay, Newton is asking, what is the name of the program you are using to teach this class? Okay, so this software I'm using here is called MuseScore. M-U-S, I'll just type it in the chat box. So it's called MuseScore. I'm using MuseScore 2. Oh, sorry, that was supposed to send to everybody. So MuseScore 2. That's the name of the software I'm using. All right. Okay, so now we'll round up now our topic, our topic on clefs now by talking about the other types of clefs that it's good to know. You might come across them at some point or another. If you come across some other types of some different types of music, sheet music, there's something we call. Now, these types of clef, the treble clef and the bass clef, right? They're generally fixed in the sense that they're always, the treble clef or the G clef will always indicate where the G is, and it generally always stays there. It wouldn't move. Also, the bass clef also indicates the F clef, also called the F clef, will tell you where the F line is, and that generally doesn't move. The treble clef and the bass clef are generally immovable. Now, but there are other types of clefs that we call movable clefs, meaning that they can move on the staff. Their position on the staff changes. Okay. One of such types of clefs is called the C clef. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay, let me clear all this. This type of clef is called a C clef. So this here, this is a C clef. Again, why is it called a C clef? Why is it called, what's the significance? Why do we say it's a C clef? Can someone explain to me? Why is it called a C clef? Newton, can you give a try? Can you explain why is it called a C clef?
Because it's standing on the line of C, the point.
Correct. So it indicates to you where the C line is, or where the C is. So now, so when you see the clef there, it means that the C now is on the third line. Just ignore the treble. Okay, perhaps let me delete that. Okay, let me delete that so that we don't get confused. All right, so that's the C clef. It tells you where the C is, and in this case, the C is on the third line. So that's our C. And then if that line is C, then it's very easy to know what the other lines and spaces are. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'll probably give that to you guys as an assignment to make sure you guys are following. So if that's the C on line, then you can easily label what the other lines and spaces are. Now, remember I told you that the C clef is a movable, it's a movable clef. What do I mean by that? It moves, it's movable. So today you could see a sheet of music, and you could see that the C is on the third line. Tomorrow you see another piece of music, you see the C clef, but it's on a different line. Okay, that's what we mean by the fact that the C clef is movable. So it's not generally fixed. It depends on the type of music or whoever composed the music or whatever, you know, the music is trying to, whoever wrote the music, if he decided to put the C on a different line and the C on another line, it's up to him. So it's a movable clef. Movable clef or C clef. Okay. Now, to demonstrate to you the fact that it's movable, I can actually move, put another clef here, the same C clef, looks the same, but I can put it there. So if I put it there now, so which line is the C? Temperance. If you see the clef like that, and you know it's a C clef, so which line is the C? Is it line 1, line 2, line what?
It's on the third line.
Can you explain why is it the third line?
Because in music, we count from the bottom.
Okay, so if you count from the bottom here.
Yes. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, okay, I understand. Okay, I probably didn't clarify correctly. So where is this clef? The way we know where the clef is, let me zoom in, is by looking at the middle part.
The middle of.
I already knew it.
Oh, I can see it now.
Okay, so you can see this middle part is like pointing, it's like two C's that meet at a point here, meet in the middle. So now that middle point is where the clef lies.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so if you, so back again, what's the answer? So what line is the C?
On the fifth line.
Fifth line, 100%, you're correct. Okay, so Darasimi, let me put another one there, put that one there. So Darasimi, where is the C in this?
Of the first line.
First line, correct. Newton, that's the same one, that's the same one.
The fifth line.
This one, where is it now?
Now it's the second line.
Second line, so that's where your C is. So I guess we're all correct and we're all following, so that makes sense. Anyone confused? Okay, so this is a C clef, and remember we said it's movable, so it can move. It's never fixed sometimes, so you just need to be careful that whenever you see a piece of music with the C clef, that you don't just say, oh, C clef, so that's probably every good boy deserves. No, you get it wrong. You just need to make sure that the C clef, you know where your C is, and then from the C, you now label all the other notes, all the other lines, okay, on the staff.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes, what's your question?
Does that mean that a C can start from anywhere depending on where the C clef is?
You are, yes, that is 100% correct. Whenever you see the C clef, it means that the C can be anywhere. You'll only know where the C is by where the clef is positioned. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
All right. Sometimes you could have the G clefs and the F clefs to move. Sometimes you could have something like this. So this is sort of an exercise. Let me see who is following. If I do this, okay. All right, so that's a treble clef, right? Now, can somebody, what is the note name of the first line? Newton, can you give a try? What is the note name of the first line?
First line.
Hmm?
It's A.
No, can you try again? Okay, let's use this one so that it's less confusing, so that we don't have multiple things going on. Zoom in. Okay, if I do this, if I put this treble, this is a treble clef, right? It's treble. Remember, what is the other name for the treble clef?
G clef.
Okay, so so if it's the G clef, it tells you that the treble clef or the G clef tells you where which note is on the line.
It tells you where the G is.
Good. So the first line, what is the note of the first line in this case?
Oh, it's G.
Correct. So what I'm trying to explain here is that sometimes, it's very rare though, very, very rare. Like you would see some sheets of music where the treble clef actually moved and the G is positioned at a different point. Instead of the first line, instead of the second line, it's now the first line. You would come across some sheet music like that, but again, it's very rare. Generally, the very common one, always in most common types of music, you'll see the treble clef at that position. You understand?
Yes.
Okay. Likewise, for the bass clef. Now, let's see, Darasimi. If I do this, if I do that, all right? So which line is the F?
The third line.
The third line, correct. Okay, the third line. So the bass clef, you could also see in some sheet music that the bass clef also moves, but again, very, very rare. Like most of those sheet musics are very rare. So normally the normal type of bass clef or the F clef, you would see it there. It's always there. It's on the fourth line. All right, and that's when the mnemonics work. Every good boy deserves favor always, or all cows eat grass. All right, so those are just some things to keep in mind. So to wrap up, let me see. Okay, let's do something else. We've not covered the ledger lines in this. So let's do this. Actually, no, let's go to this one. Let's do this one. Yes. So let's do that. Let's do that. Okay. Now, remember the line here. Look, if you remember the line here, what is the line on the bass staff here? The first line. Anyone can chorus. You can chorus the answer if you know it. This is the normal bass clef and treble clef, the ones we started with at the beginning. I've not moved anything. It's just the same bass clef and treble clef. So on the bass clef, what's the first line of the bass staff?
G. G.
G, good. Good. So the next line is boy, or D, B. The third line is D, deserves. The fourth line is F. Sorry, that's a very weird F. Okay. Let's try again. This is F. And then this is the fifth line is A. Okay. Now let's go to the treble clef, or treble staff. The first line is
E.
E. Second line is
G.
G, good. Third line?
D.
D. Fourth line?
D.
D. Fifth line?
F.
F. Correct. Every good boy deserves favor. All right. Now, remember we talked about ledger lines, right? A ledger line is those additional lines sometimes. You'd see them either below the staff or above the staff. So if you go to the treble staff and I put a ledger line here, if I put a line here, now what note would this line be? Temperance or Archippus, who wants to answer? If this first line is E on the treble staff, and I put a ledger line to extend this staff below, so what will be the letter name of this line?
A. And
Are you sure?
I think an A.
You see, one easy way to do it is
D.
sorry?
D.
No. Okay, one easy way to do it is as you go up, if you move up the staff, then you move from left to right in your notes, in your music notes. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So this is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Those are the music notes. Then you can continue A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on and so on. A, and you can keep on going. All right? Now, if you're going up on the staff, you're going from left to right. So I'm using the red arrow to indicate that, right? If I'm going down on the staff, so if I'm going, no, a different color now. I want, let's say, green. So if I'm going down on the staff, if I'm trying to know what are the notes going down, then I go backwards on the music notes. Are we following? Is that clear? That's an easy way to know what the note name of a line or a space is on the staff. Okay, so let's go back to this ledger line. So if this line is E, okay, and then we're going down the staff to this ledger line, what note would that be? Archippus, can you try again? Or Temperance,
C.
whichever. Sorry? We can't hear you.
C.
Did you say A
Yes,
or
C.
C? C, correct. It's a C. So this line is line C. You're correct. Does that make sense, everyone?
Yes.
So this is line C. Okay. So then what is the space then between this ledger line and the first line on the staff? What will be the space? Newton?
D.
Sorry, come again.
D.
Yes.
D, correct. D, correct. All right. Now let's go up on the treble staff. Let's add some ledger lines here. So if we add one ledger line here, another ledger line there. Okay. Let's move these out of the way, just so that if you're going down, you use the green. If you're going up, use the red. Okay. So if this fifth line on the treble staff is F, then what's the next line here on this first ledger line on the top here? Dunsin?
A. It's A.
You are correct. Well done. 100%. And then Darasimi, what would be the next line then? The next ledger line on top of the first one.
C.
Repeat that.
C.
C, correct. You're 100% correct. Okay. Then Newton, what would be the space between the fifth line or the F line and the A? I think that should be
G.
straightforward. G, correct. And Temperance, what would be the space between the first ledger line and the second ledger line?
That'll be B.
That will be?
B.
Did you say E or B for boy or E for elephant?
Boy. B.
B for boy, good, all right. I just wanted to clarify. 100%, you guys are spot on. I'm proud, very proud of you guys. Happy for you guys. Okay, so that's the ledger line. So that's how to know what the ledger lines, the notes on the ledger lines are on the treble staff. Okay, you don't necessarily need to memorize the ledger lines, but once you just know the main staff on the treble staff, every good boy deserves favor, then you can easily extend. Then the space, the next line is, or the next space is G, the line is A, the next space is B, the next line is C, going up and then going down. If this is E, then this is D, then this is C, and this is, and so on. You can keep on going down like that. Okay, so now let's do the bass staff. Now let's go up on the bass staff. So if this is A, then the first ledger line, ooh, that's a very wavy ledger line. So let's do that. There. What is the line on the bass staff, the first ledger line at the top there, the bass staff? Newton?
C.
C, correct. Well done. Okay. And then the space obviously would be
B.
B, correct. Okay. And then if we go down on the bass staff, and we just add, let's just add one ledger line. what would be that line? What would that line be?
E.
Correct. That would be E. And then the space between the first line and the ledger line here would be
F.
F. Correct. So you guys, you get the point, right? You see how it works. It's just A, B, C, D, E, F, G if you go up. And yeah, if you can say the alphabet in reverse, I won't even try. Yeah, you can go in reverse if you're going down. All right. Okay, so now one thing you will notice is that you see these two, let me use a different color here. Let me use blue. You see this ledger line on the this ledger line here, right? With the C, okay? And this ledger line on the bass staff also above it with the C. This C and this C, they're the same C. Is that clear? Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's the same C. So what do I mean by the same? So if you're playing the keyboard, and then if you're playing a keyboard or the piano, or even any instrument, and then on the you're playing on the treble staff, and then you see a note on this ledger line here, which is a C, okay? You're going to be playing the exact same note, C, as the same note that you play if you're using the bass clef here. It's the same note. So that's just what these two mean. So these two are equal. This C and this C are the same. Okay, so it's like this is a continuation. So it's like G, B, D, F, A, C, and which is also the same C here, and then E, G, B, continue F, A, or A, B, C, D, E, F, G, up and down the staff. Okay, is that clear? All right, I see we've almost come to the end of our slot. Quickly, I'm going to give you guys an exercise. Quickly. It won't take long. I want to test your knowledge a bit on what we've done so far. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw some notes here, and I want you guys to now, you give me the names of the notes as I draw, when I draw them. Okay. I'll put one there, put one there, put one there, put one there. Don't worry about what this symbol means. Just know that it's a type of note I'm just putting on the staff. And I just want to know, I just want you to tell me what is the note name that note is on. Okay. All right. All right, so how do we do this? Okay, I want you to write in the chat box the note names for these notes, one after the other. Just forget this other symbol. Don't just ignore the other symbols there. Those are not notes. Just these ones that look like a shaded oval shaped thing with a stem. Just what notes names are they lying on? So just do it one after the other. First one, second one, third one, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and so on. Just put it in the chat box so that don't worry if you're not sure, if your answer is wrong. That's why we're all here. We're here to learn, eh? Okay. Has anyone finished? Someone has finished. Awesome. So whose answer is this one? Is this Jarasimis or Dunsins? Both of you. Okay.
Yes, sir, we did it together.
All right. It's okay. That's fine. Okay. Temperance. Okay, Newton, I see yours. Thank you. Temperance and Archippus. Okay. Did you guys also do it together, or is this for Temperance or is this for Archippus?
Did it together.
All right,
Yeah.
that's okay. That's okay. So let's see. Quickly as we round up. Okay, so you said the first one is E. That is correct. The second one is B. That is correct. Third one is C. Okay. EBC. Yes, I think we're all on the same page there. Okay. Fourth one, this one is G. Did you get that? Okay, Temperance, you said it's A. So that's a G. Okay, because remember the fifth line on the treble staff is F, and then since that's a space, the next letter after F is a G. Okay. Okay, then the next one is an E. Next one an A. Okay. All right. Temperance and Archippus, you got that correct now. Darasimi and Dunsin, yes, you also got that. Nate Newton, you missed that one. This is supposed to be an A. Okay, not a G. Okay, so remember the space. If you remember the acronyms we use for the spaces, the first space is F, the second space is A. That's face, basically. It spells face. All right. And then next one is D. Okay, I think we all got that. Yes. This one is also a D. Okay. I think I see only Darasimi and Dulcin got that correct. Because why is it a D? Because remember, the first line is an E. And when you're going down on the staff, you basically count backwards in your alphabet. And then immediately after E, the next space is the next alphabet letter, which is D. All right. And then this one is B. Okay. See, we got that. Okay. Temperance and Darasimi, that's a B, because that line, ledger line there is a C. Then if you go backwards from C in your alphabet, you hit the B, and that's the space there. Okay. And then what's this line? This is C. And then finally, that one is your G. All right. Okay. So any questions or anything confusing? Don't worry if you got it wrong, it's fine. That's why we are here to learn. But if anything is confusing, just let me know. So all you guys that, I think Darasimi and Dunsin, congratulations. You got it 100% correct. Clap for yourselves. All right. So Newton and Temperance and Archippus, these are the correct letter names, okay? Remember, it's just once you know the main first 5 lines and the 4 spaces using Every Good Boy Deserves Favor and FACE, then all you just need to do from there is just to follow from the ledger lines your alphabets from the last known alphabet. So if you know that that line is F, then the space will be G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Then the line will be A, the space will be B, and then the line there will be C. That's how we come to that C there. All right. So we've overshot our time, but I think this is a good time to close. We have finished Clefs, the staff, and yeah, I think I'll give you guys an assignment. I'll send the assignment through to your class rep, and then she will just put it on the group. So your assignments will be similar to this, just to label, you know, the notes on the staff. Okay. Any questions before we close? No questions. All right. So Archippus, can you round us up in prayer?
Okay. Father, in Jesus' name,
Amen.
we bless your name for making us have this day to come together in your presence and to learn this music. to glorify your name. Let- We bless your holy name in Jesus' name. Let's pray that, we pray that all these things that we have planned, it will stick to our memory in Jesus' name. We pray that will not be confused in any areas, that the Lord will help us in it in Jesus' name. That God will help us to be faithful to his work in Jesus' name. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen. Thank you very much. So we will see next week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And yeah, I will also put the video of the lessons today on the group so that you can watch it at your own time if there's anything you missed out. And yeah, and I'll also send the assignments, which is due by next week's lesson. All right, thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone. I see there's a chat. Oh yes, thank you. Happy New Month to you. Happy New Month to Newton and to everyone. I wish you all the best this month.